Hi guys, welcome back to our Maine Homestead. Today I want to chat with you guys about books. As you can imagine, winter is a little bit of a slower season for us around here on the homestead. So we're kind of resting and relaxing a little bit more than actually getting things accomplished. We do still work here and there on like house building stuff and things like that. Like Eddie is currently downstairs working on installing some electrical like outlet boxes and switches and things like that. So he's still working, but like I said, winter is a little bit more of a downtime kind of season for us. And so we actually do a lot of reading, both Eddie and myself. Since I don't have a whole lot of building content for you guys today, I figured why not talk about books? That's one of my favorite things to talk about. So let's talk about books. I am basically going to do like a January reading wrap up for you guys. So I'll go over all of the books that I read in January. Hopefully this will give you guys a little bit of inspiration for your TBR lists, or if you already have them on your list, maybe it'll bump them up to a little bit of a higher priority for you guys. I tend to read a lot of physical books, but I listen to audiobooks as well. So typically I have like 2 books going at once. My audiobook usually is just for like car rides. So when I'm in the car driving, which we live quite a ways from all of our therapy appointments and all the things. So I typically have quite a bit of quiet time in the car. And so I usually like to listen to an audiobook or a podcast, but lately it's been audiobooks. For the month of January, I actually read and listened to 9 books. So I'm going to go over those with you guys and let you know what I think. So there's not going to be any spoilers. I will basically just tell you guys what the book is about, give you guys a little bit of my review, again, no spoilers, and just let you know what I rated it out of 5 stars. So when I do my book ratings, 5 stars typically means like I just loved the story. It was a page turner. I thought that I loved the characters. I loved the setting. Everything about it was just really, really good. And it's one that I would highly, highly, highly recommend. 3 stars is kind of middle of the road. Didn't love it, didn't hate it. It was okay. Probably not one that I would recommend. 1 star is basically like did not finish. It was bad. And I tend to read quite a variety of genres, so it's a little bit of everything, I feel like. So I do like some historical fiction, I do fantasy, I do sci-fi, romance, thriller, mystery, suspense, dark romance, all the things. So basically you'll get a hodgepodge of genres from me as well when I do these reading wrap-ups. So let's get started. If I'm able to catch Eddie during one of his breaks, I'll call him up here to see if he wants to share maybe some of his like favorite reads of the month as well. So I'm going to go down the list of physical books that I read this month first. And the first one was Never Never by Colleen Hoover. I really, really liked this one. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys it was a 4 out of 5 stars for me. I would probably categorize it as like a young adult mystery romance because it's about 2 high schoolers who are dating, but they both wake up and have no idea who they are, no idea what's going on. They don't know their friends, family, they don't know anything. They're like their memories have been completely erased. Then they figure out that they're dating, and then they kind of team up together to like figure out why they lost their memory and what they can do to fix it. And they are discovering a lot about who they are and all that stuff. So it started off with a bang, right? So it's a really, really good story. It had me hooked right from the beginning. I really enjoyed the characters and just kind of like uncovering all of their history and what's been going on and why this is happening to them and things like that. So I really, really enjoyed it. It is one that I would recommend. However, I will say that the ending wasn't as exciting as I thought that it was going to be. So it kind of fell flat towards the end, but overall it was just a really fun book to read. It was definitely a page turner. And so it is one that I would recommend, even though, like I said, the ending wasn't what I had hoped it would be, but it was good. It was very good in general. So the next physical book that I read this month was Hollow Heathens by Nicole Fiorina. This was a book club read. So I am part of 3 different book clubs, and I will tell you guys all about them as we go along. So for this one, it was the January pick for Crystal's Book Club, which is an entirely virtual book club that is basically run through Instagram. So I will tag all of the information in the description below if you are interested in a virtual book club for yourself. We read 1 book a month. It's a very casual, like chill, laid back book club group, and we meet on the last Wednesday evening of every month via Zoom to talk about the book. This is the January pick for that particular book club. And this, I would say, is like a gothic, kind of paranormal, romantasy, so a little bit of, fantasy aspects. There's a lot of like magical storylines and witches and things like that. So, like I said, romantasy, so not only that fantasy portion, but also some romance as well. So the 2 main characters are Julian and Fallon. Julian is one of the cursed hollow heathens in this town, and then Fallon left town when she was a little baby and has just come back as an adult. She meets Julian, and so the whole romantasy aspect of this book starts to unravel. So you get a lot of like the like witchy storylines and why things are happening, and then you get the romance aspect as well. I gave this one 3 out of 5 stars because it was just kind of middle of the road. It wasn't like the best book I ever read, but I didn't hate it either. I think that the general story was actually very interesting. I was not a huge fan of the romance in this. I did not like their relationship, but I will say that everybody in the book club gave it like 4.5 stars. So everybody else seemed to be a little more enamored with the relationship than I was. So that's just a personal opinion. Don't let that deter you from trying this book. It just wasn't my favorite. Sorry. Okay, the next physical book that I read was The Arctic Fury by Greer McAllister. That was another book club pick. So I actually run a local book club, our Maine book club. For our Maine book club, I actually teamed up with the local library. So we get together in person on the last Thursday of every month to discuss the book in person. But I also have a very, very active Facebook group for this book club. So if you want that information, go down to the description to find that. But after we meet in person, I usually do a general kind of recap post, but it's also a virtual discussion post. So we do have a lot of people in the book club that are not local. So I wanted to open up an area for people to discuss the book who aren't able to come to the in-person meetings. So our book club pick for this month was historical fiction. Greer McAllister usually takes like a real historical event and then puts like a big what if spin on it. This historical event was the Lost Franklin expedition. So this is a book about what if Lady Jane Franklin hired a extraordinary group of women to go on an expedition into the Arctic to try to find her husband, or at least try to find answers of what happened to her husband on this lost expedition. So I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. I would say that it's part like wintry thriller and part courtroom drama, because it is about this group of women who I really loved. They all brought their own kind of unique skills and expertise to the group for this expedition, and I really enjoyed reading that part of it. I felt like it was a very realistic possibility, I guess. Like if this would have happened, I feel like that is exactly how it would have gone down. And then it's also half like courtroom drama, because a year after the expedition is done, not all the women have made it back, and so the leader of the expedition is actually on trial for murder. The ending wasn't as like mind-blowing and like as exciting or climactic as I thought it could have been, so it didn't give me that 5-star feeling, but I thought that it was a very, very well done historical fiction what if kind of book. Okay, next up we have The Sister by Poppy Adams, and this was another book club pick. So this is my third book club is a little bit more of an intimate kind of family and very close friends book club. So I'm not going to post any information about that one specifically, but I do really enjoy this book club. We all take turns picking a book, and so it's really fun because you just get to read a lot of things that you wouldn't normally pick up yourself, I feel like. So The Sister by Poppy Adams, I would categorize it as like a family drama, crime, mystery. It does have like a gothic feel to it. And it also is maybe a little bit sci-fi, I guess, because it's very science-y for like a large chunk of the book. So The Sister is about two elderly sisters. One has lived at home all her life, followed in her father's footsteps. He's a lepidopterist, which is he studies moths. So that's kind of the sciencey stuff that comes into it. There's a lot of moth talk in this one. So she's kind of followed in her father's footsteps, and she's studying moths as well. She's lived at home her whole life. The other sister went away like during her teens, and then in her 50s has like come back. So the entire story actually takes place in like a 6-day period, but there's obviously a lot of like flashbacks to when they were children. So anyways, I loved the family drama aspect of this one. I thought that it was very interesting. There's some crime, there's, all that kind of stuff. It's a little bit of like a mystery thriller kind of vibe. And so I really, really enjoyed that part of the book. The other part of the book, all the sciencey stuff, I thought was just like a little much. So I found myself kind of skimming and zoning out a little bit while I was reading those parts in particular. So I gave this book 3 stars. Again, didn't love it, didn't hate it, but there were things that I really liked and there were things that I didn't really like. So 3 stars, not sure I would recommend that one. And last but not least, for physical books for the month, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. 5 stars. It was so good. It was my favorite read of the month. It is a young adult mystery thriller crime type of book, and it is just so good. I'm a sucker for young adult like thrillers. I tend to just like fly through them. They are definitely page turners for me, and so I really enjoyed that one. This one is about a girl named Pip, and she is doing her like senior year high school capstone project on a murder that happened in her town 5 years ago. So basically she goes off to investigate the murder, and of course she uncovers a lot of like deep dark secrets in the town. And she originally sets out to basically prove that the guy that everybody thinks committed this murder, that he's actually innocent. So that's what she sets out to prove with her project, and it is just, I just loved it so much. So I think the story just unraveled perfectly. I loved the characters. So 5 out of 5 stars. Highly recommend that one. Put it on your TBR list or put it at the top of your TBR list. Okay, so let's move into audiobooks that I read for the month. The first one that I listened to was The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. 5 stars for that one. I really enjoyed it. I would categorize it as like a gothic, dark academia thriller. It was definitely like a suspenseful thriller to me, because it's just so good. There's a lot of like really heavy Greek mythology and Greek tragedy themes in this one, which I really enjoyed. I love learning about Greek mythology and things like that. So our main character in this book is Mariana, and she is a psychotherapist who raised her niece, had custody of her niece, raised her, and her niece is actually going to school at Cambridge over in England, where a girl goes missing and then is found murdered. And so because it is her niece's best friend, she goes to be with her during this like really difficult time. She ends up kind of getting involved with the case and like trying to figure it out. Using her like therapist expertise and skills to like try to figure out what's going on here. And so this book was very, very like twisty, and there were lots of like surprises that I didn't see coming. And then if you're also a fan of Alex Michaelides' books, specifically The Silent Patient, there are some like nods to that book as well. So that was really fun because I was like, oh, that's from The Silent Patient. So that was really fun to read about. Very dark, very twisty, just very exciting, kept me on the edge of my seat. And every time I had to press pause, I just wanted to press play again. Like I wanted to listen to more and more and more. So 5 out of 5 stars, highly recommend that one. Okay, next up we have The Rose Code by Kate Quinn. Another chef's kiss, 5 stars. Oh, it was so, so good. I did not want to press pause on this one either. It was so good. So The Rose Code is a like then and now historical fiction. So it does jump between timelines. But it's about basically 3 women who were code breakers at Bletchley Park during World War II, trying to break Enigma. And I absolutely loved like all of the history in that one. It was so interesting learning about Bletchley Park specifically and a lot of the code breakers that worked there during that time. The now portion of the story is that one of the 3 women is in an insane asylum, and she's actually not crazy. So it's kind of about like her asking her friends to help her break out of this insane asylum because she knows something about the then times. And so anyways, it was a really, really good book, hard to press pause on, but I also really loved that there's a lot of nods to like real people in the past. So Prince Philip of Greece, Queen Elizabeth, Ian Fleming, a bunch of other people that you've probably heard about if you know anything about this period of time and historical events specifically. So it was very, very fun to read about stuff like that as well. And I just thought that the twist and the mystery of it all in the now section of the book was really, really fun and not what I expected. It was just great. Kate Quinn is like a master of historical fiction. And then of course, typically one of the things that I really love about historical fiction is the author's notes at the end of the book that tells you like, okay, this person was real, or this person was based on this person in history, or this actually happened. This is what I kind of fictioned up a little bit, you know, like put my own little spin on. And I just really, really enjoy hearing about all of the like history that the book was based on, or the people that the people were based on, the characters in the book. So yeah, so highly recommend listening to or reading the author's note at the end of this book specifically. It's very, very good. So next up, I listened to The Wish by Nicholas Sparks, and I am a very big Nicholas Sparks fan. He's like my go-to romance author, and I have read pretty much all of his books, I believe. There might be like 1 or 2 new ones that I haven't gotten to yet. But I hate to say that this one was not my favorite Nicholas Sparks book, and I think because this is more of like a young adult romance, and I just didn't like it quite as much as I do a lot of his other like adult romance books. So this one takes place on the Outer Banks, specifically Ocracoke, and it's about like a 16-year-old girl who finds herself pregnant. So it's a little teen pregnancy. And so she gets shipped off to her aunt's house in Ocracoke, and she meets a boy and they fall in love. So it was a very like cute young adult romance. It just wasn't my favorite. So that one got 4 out of 5 stars for me. I will say as well, I feel like mostly the goal for Nicholas Sparks books is to make you cry. And this one did make me cry at the end. So mission accomplished as far as that's concerned. And last but not least for audiobooks, I listened to Extinction by Douglas Preston. So it's one of his newer books, I think. This one came highly recommended from my husband who read it this month. So it was like one of his favorite books that he read this month. And so I was like, you know what? It's on my cloud library app. I'm gonna download it and listen to it as one of my audiobooks for the month. So it was very good. I would consider it like kind of a medical sci-fi crime type of book. It was 5 out of 5 stars for sure, hands down. So to dive into what this book is about, it's about de-extinction. So there's a big company that is de-extincting animals like the woolly mammoth and the giant ground sloth and things like that. So they have this big resort where very, very rich people can pay to come and like see the animals and things like that. But there's a murder that happens at the park. And so the Colorado Bureau of Investigation agent in charge, Frankie Cash, she comes to like investigate. She teams up with like local law enforcement to like investigate this murder. And of course, there's a big twist. They're de-extincting some things that they shouldn't be. And it all comes out, but it's like, ooh, it's so good. I loved the twist in this book. This one definitely gave me some Jurassic Park vibes a little bit. Like when you start messing with science like this and de-extincting things that shouldn't be here, chaos is sure to ensue. You know what I'm saying? So it's just bound to happen. There's going to be some chaos. There's going to be some deaths and all that stuff. But it was such a good book. It did have like a little bit of like an adventure or like survival kind of feel to it as well. So if you're fans of books like I don't know, The Hunger Games, The Maze Runner, that sort of thing, it did have a little bit of like those vibes to it as well. So I really, really enjoyed it. 5 out of 5 stars. Highly, highly, highly recommend that one. And so speaking of Eddie, let me see if I can holler for him to come up here and maybe share some of his favorite books from the month too. Eddie, Pumpkin, babe, are you available to chit chat about books? Come here, sit down. Here, I'll make you some room. All right, so tell them some of like your favorite books that you read this month.
I'll give you 3 of my favorites. So I read a book called Thunderhead, which is written by Preston and Child. It's very good. It's kind of, I didn't know what it was labeled as until I got further into it. Not genre, but it's actually book 00 of a series. I found that out after the fact. So now I'm currently reading the first book in the series, where the main character is an archaeologist, a female archaeologist named Nora Kelly. And so Thunderhead's really good. Am I supposed to tell you what it's about?
You can share a little bit about what it's about.
So basically,
just no spoilers.
They go on an archaeological expedition looking for a lost city of gold in the American Southwest. So it's excellent. It's very, very good. So written by Preston and Child. Douglas Preston is a co-writer in that book, but he writes nonfiction as well as fiction. He's been on multiple archaeological expeditions, written books about them, some famous ones, at least in archaeological circles. Famous to me now since I found out who he was and read some books. But I'm planning on reading the entire Nora Kelly series. He's got some other series that he's written, books that look really good that he's written with Child. I don't know Child's first name. Probably an adult by now. Anyway, so that was a really good book. So after I read that book, I found a book called Extinction, which I think she already told you about.
I did.
Written by Douglas Preston by himself. No children involved in this one. And it's excellent.
I said dad jokes.
No, it was very, very, very good. Well, there were some children, but yeah, you have to read it to find that out. But yeah, excellent. I like books that kind of have some factual aspects to them. They're not just. I can't read sci-fi where it's like aliens. Maybe there are aliens. I don't know, but since I don't know, I really don't care. So I like to read books that are kind of based on some factual, have a lot of facts in them that are real, things you can relate to if you know much about science. Anyway, so that's the way this book was. And then I read it. I don't know if you already talked about this.
I don't know.
But I read it. So after I read it, he has an epilogue where he talks about some factual stuff because this guy writes nonfiction as well as fiction, like I said. So at the end of the book, he actually talks about the research that is going on currently. And there's actually a company named Colossus, which they say by 2028, so 3 years from now, they will have done what is written about in this book, at least one aspect of what is written about in this book. So it's like, it's kind of scary. It's
Jurassic Park vibes.
yeah, but it's really, really good. And the book is like, I don't have to have nonstop action. I like books that have a lot of adventure in them. So it doesn't have to be, nonstop action to be adventurous. And this book has a lot of action, but the characters are developed really well. The same thing with Thunderhead. You either love or hate the characters, but the action and what's actually going on is based a lot in fact. I kind of always have this joke when we're watching a movie. I say it's based on a true story. It doesn't matter what it is. You always see that in a movie, but it doesn't matter what it is. But almost everything's based on a true story. It doesn't mean the story's true, obviously, but it's based on human nature and the different parts of humanity, good or bad, that kind of thing. So they're really based on a true story. Even alien stories, if they were totally alien and you couldn't relate to them, they didn't have some kind of something you could relate to them, if they weren't based on a true story, so to speak, nobody would watch them. Well, yeah. I wouldn't. Anyway, so those are two really good books by the same author, obviously one combined with it. And then the other great book that I read, which, I'll tell you about the book real quick. It's called Cold Storage. It's written by a guy named David Koepp, Koepp. Excellent. It's very good. I found out after the fact that it's going to be made into a movie starring Liam Neeson. I'm a big Liam Neeson fan. So, so it obviously must be a pretty good book, right? He's only written 2 books, but after the fact, after I read the first one, I found out that he's a screenplay writer and he's only written 2 novels just fairly recently. He wrote screenplays for 2 Jurassic Park movies. He's writing the screenplay now, or maybe he's already written it for the new Jurassic Park movie that's coming out. He wrote the screenplay for Spider-Man, the more modern original Spider-Man. I don't know, I didn't memorize his list. You just know he's a very accomplished screenplay writer and he's a very good novelist. I read another book by him called Aurora, which I liked, not near as much as Cold Storage. Cold Storage was very good and a lot of science in it and some really true science, some reality science. So anyway,
that one's kind of got like some apocalyptic vibes, right?
Yeah, well, the people are basically saving the world, but not like you would think. And it's basically one guy and maybe his partner who's a girl, but it's really interesting. If you've ever seen the movie Battleship, they basically are saving the world against aliens, not real in my opinion. Anyway, but basically, they have to enlist the World War II veterans, the old people, to help them. Number one, because those are only ships that are operating and they don't know how to run them because they're 50 years old or whatever. Great movie. This is very similar, but not where they can't run it, but they just need the older people involved who are familiar with what's going on. No one else really knows what's going on.
Okay.
So that's what kind of makes it good. But again, all of the books I mentioned are scientific and they're not science heavy. They're extremely easy to read, and they're page turners.
Yeah.
And so one of my criteria for selecting books, if you care, I've started looking for books that are either going to be made into movies or have already been made into movies or TV shows, that kind of thing. Because not that they're always going to be great, but the people putting that much money and effort into a book to, adapt it to the screen, obviously it's a good story at least. So a lot of times it doesn't translate on the screen to what as good as the book is. Sometimes it's maybe better, but usually the movie or TV show is not as good as the book. But I think a lot of those are really, just really good stories, if nothing else. And the characters are there, so they're going to be a good read.
Yeah.
Also, one of my other things for the year of 2025, that's the year we're in, yeah. I'm talking a lot. For the year 2025, I've decided I'm only reading books that are related to my wife. So the main character in Extinction is named Frankie Cash. She's she FBI? I don't know what she is.
She's CBI.
CBI, yeah. So Colorado local BI. And Frankie.
Yeah.
And then Nora Kelly is the main character in the series of books that I've started. Her maiden name's Kelly.
Yeah.
So
he's
kind
only
of a
going to
joke.
read about like Francesca's or Frankie.
Unless I find something interesting that doesn't involve that, then I'll just read it.
He's on a good roll right now, but probably like any New Year resolution.
Yeah.
It won't last after this. Yeah. So, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed hearing about all the wonderful and maybe not so wonderful books that we read for the month of January. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already. And if you have read any of these books, no spoilers, and want to chat about them in the comment section below, feel free to do that. Again, I'm going to link all of my virtual book clubs down below in the description, so feel free to join us and read. They're always a lot of fun. I love book clubs. That's like my addiction is book clubs. So anyways,
yes,
we will see you guys next time. And again, if you liked this video, maybe we'll think about doing some more reading wrap-ups in the future. So we'll see you guys later. Bye. Thanks, babe. Oh wait, no, take a picture with me real quick.